Woohoo!
All right, welcome to week 5 of the Maypearl Panther Radio Coaches Show. We've got head coach Nick De La Cerda on with us again. Coach, big win for homecoming. What are some of
Sure.
your takeaways from that game?
Man, our defense really stepped up. We really played some really good defense against Riesel. Hats off to them. They came out, they played hard, gave us a little bit different look than what we had seen before. So really proud of the adjustments we made defensively to be able to bring out the win on last Friday night.
Yes, sir. And it was probably a lower scoring game than some would have expected. It was a 20-6 win. So you got to get some kids in there to get some non-district look. Who stood out for you in that win?
Defensively, I thought Maverick Trinkle played really well. I thought Whit Ford played really well. Tristan Brooks played really well. Hunter Sword, he was Hunter, played really well again. But really, the core of it was our D line. Our D line, we focused on stopping the run, being physical up front, and that's exactly what we did. We did a really good job, I felt like.
No doubt, Coach. And as we kind of look towards this last non-district game, and we're going on the road against Troy. I believe it's Troy's homecoming, so you get to play a little spoiler there. What do we
Yeah.
know about the Trojans so far?
Coach Brashear over there, he's a really well-rounded coach. He coaches a really good program. Kind of have some ties to him, not personally, but just through the grapevine and coaching under the same guys at different times. He's going to do really good about preparing his team and making sure they're ready for everything that they'll see. They'll have some things that they probably throw against us and throw out there that we haven't seen. They're going to be a good team. They graduated their quarterback from last year, who was really good, but the quarterback they got now can still throw the rock a little bit. The receiver they had last year graduated, who gave us fits last year, but Troy's a program that's just going to almost reload all the time because of the culture Coach Purseer has established there. I think he's going into his third year there, if I'm not mistaken. So. Test right before we hit the bye week, and right before we hit the gauntlet of district that we're in.
Yes, sir. And when we look at Troy, that they're 2-2 on the season. They've got a pretty good win against Hillsboro, 55-30. They're coming off a win against Thrall, 44-20. But when you look at their stats, it looks like, at least on paper, that when they win, it's because of their passing game and the successes there.
Yes, sir.
They're over 65% completion rate in the 2 wins, and they're at 50 or less in both of the 2 losses. So, knowing that, what's our plan going in defensively?
We always have preached from the get-go when we started installing our defense. Pressure is part of our coverage. If you apply pressure to the quarterback, your guys don't have to cover as long. So that's going to be a big deal, is making sure we can get pressure to the quarterback. Now, he does get it out quick sometimes. So when he does get it out quick, so those short routes, making sure that we swarm to the football and rally and tackle, keeping our eyes right in the secondary. But pressure is definitely part of the coverage, and that's something that we preach all the time to our guys. Like, we don't have to cover as long as we can make the quarterback get the ball out quick, or come away with a couple sacks.
No doubt, Coach. And when you're looking at the defensive side, they've got 2 linebackers who are pretty salty.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of where where their defense thrives is right there in the middle. And oddly enough, that's pretty much their only seniors on the team that contribute a lot. So
Yep.
from your offensive side, what's going to be the game plan, knowing that it's probably going to be pretty tough to run up the middle?
You know, getting the ball to our playmakers out on the edge has kind of been our bread and butter throughout the year. Getting the ball into Brock Upton, Tristan Brooks, Whit Ford, Daniel Eubank, who's come through for us as of late. Colby Davis, who really glad he came out and played this year. He was a kid who didn't play last year, who's playing this year. Really glad he's here. And just making sure we can get the ball out quickly and get the guys in space with the ball in their hands. So, our run game, we want to be able to establish the run, but when you got to throw the ball quick and out on the edges, it almost becomes an extension of your run game. You're just not handing it off. You're just throwing a quick pass out there.
No doubt. And I failed to mention that they do have the two seniors up the middle on defense, but their offensive line, that's also going to be a strength because they've got some seniors there too. And it looks like, again, on paper, they are quite physical up front. I think they had two seniors that each had 30 pancakes each. That's pretty stout through 3 games or through 4 games. So has there been any additional preparation for the physicality from their offensive line up front?
We aren't the biggest kids. Everybody knows that our D line's not the biggest. But what we are is we play with a lot of heart and we play with a lot of quickness and a lot of speed. So a lot of times when you get a big kid that you're going against, if you don't let him get his hands on you, he doesn't get to have those pancakes. So being able to move and slant and move different directions is going to be a key for us. And we've added in some wrinkles and doing some different things this week to be able to help our kids out. But yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun one. I'm excited about it.
Sorry about that, Coach. Having a little video technical difficulty.
You're all right.
So we will get this. I promise one day this thing will run smooth.
Oh, no, you're fine.
So I guess the most important thing for this week will be coming out healthy. We've had a couple nicks and bruises. Have we had any significant losses that maybe came up either last week or the week before?
Eli Votal going into the Cameron game, he's one of our inside linebackers. Going into that game, he was a little bit banged up, and he said, "Coach, I'm going to play one drive and see how it feels." And I told him, "I'm going to trust you and what you say." So he played that one drive against Cameron. Said it didn't feel great, and so we decided as a staff and for him, like, we can't lose him. I'm not going to say a meaningless non-district game because they all mean something, but we can't lose him in a non-district game. We need him healthy for our district game. So, he'll be sitting this week, and, he's been going through some practice drills and just doing some little things. Logan Shearman, unfortunately, he's out. He's one of our defensive ends. He's out this week with a hip pointer, something going on with his hip. But other than that, we're still have the same guys out that we had before. A guy like Texas, who we lost for the year, a guy like Brody Fisher, who we've lost for some time now, Lucas Babbitt, big old offensive lineman. He's cleared to start coming back and doing some non-contact drills, and so he'll be ready and healthy, hopefully enough to be able to start district. So we're losing some, but we're gaining some. So we're going to play with who we got, and we're going to put the best 11 guys out there and the ones that are going to play hard and play with heart. So yeah, there's always some injuries that happen here and there, but we're just going to keep playing with what we got.
I mean, you got to, right? I mean, we're in week 5 now, so we're kind of at the halfway point. Oddly enough, at the halfway point, and because of the sizes of the 3A and like the 4A school, the 3A and 4A districts, we don't have as many teams. So we're halfway through and still haven't played a district game, which is not great when you're trying to keep everybody fresh and healthy. But you've got the bye week next week. So I guess when you're looking at that bye week and it's coming right in the middle of the season, how important is this game from a standpoint of not just getting out healthy, but getting as many kids reps as you can because of that bye week?
It is important, because you never know what happens in a district game. The level steps up, the speed steps up. So you never know when you're going to lose a kid in district. So making sure that they've gotten quality reps in non-district is important. So if something does, unfortunately happen in district play, they've had that experience. So being able to get those kids reps, try them in different positions than they haven't normally been in, kind of cross training them in some positions is something that we've looked at and we're doing with a few kids. So we got to prepare to win every game, and we're going to prepare our kids as much as possible. But when it comes to getting out healthy and getting kids playing time, that's important too for me. It's okay if we it's not okay to lose a game, but I will be okay with losing a game, getting more kids reps, keeping somebody healthy that is not 100% healthy right now. That will be important for us in the district play.
No doubt, Coach. I guess, has your staff started to look at film of district opponents yet? And if y'all have, what areas do you think that you really need to focus on and tighten up before that slate starts?
I think, we've looked a little bit of film of some teams and looked at stats and see who they like to get their ball to and who's their dude on defense and who we got to block to be able to be successful on offense, or who we got to stop to be able to be successful on defense. But to me, we can line up against, I don't care, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Dallas Cowboys. It doesn't matter. If we line up and we play ball to the best of our ability, and we as coaches put our kids in the most successful positions and the right calls, as long as we do those things, man, we hope we get a win. And if that's what the man upstairs, blesses us with on that Friday night, that's what he blesses us with. But I don't get too worried and too riled up, or dive too into the other opponent as much as maybe some coaches do. And some people see it as a flaw, some people see it as something great, but we got to make sure we take care of ourselves and do our jobs and not worry about so much of what they are doing. If we do our job, then hopefully we're doing the right thing.
No doubt, Coach. I mean, you can scheme all you want to, but if you can't execute, then even the best scheme and even the best play sheet for that game doesn't matter if you can't if each kid isn't doing their job.
Correct. And that's the big thing, is doing our job. And there are times when kids in our program or on our team are like telling another kid, hey, you're supposed to be doing, hey, you focus about yourself, do your job, and trust in the guy next to you. They're doing their job. Let us coach, y'all play. And so that's just kind of what's been instilled in me ever since I started coaching, is like, let us coach, y'all play, trust in the guys next to you, have passion for what you're doing, respect the guy next to you, and, just be disciplined. Doing your job is very, very important.
Exactly, Coach. And you touched on faith there for just a second. To expand on that, this past Wednesday was the annual meet you at the pole, see you at the pole. But
meet at the pole.
Yeah,
yep.
It's the annual gathering at the junior highs and the high schools, to just kind of pray on the community, pray on each other with everything that's going on now. I mean, we need that more than ever. But I saw a picture from the event at Maypearl High School, and there were several football players there in pads. which I thought was
Hmm.
pretty cool. I mean, because it was an early morning thing, and for them to go and to show up and to be leaders in that space also. How does that make you feel as a coach, knowing that you've got a team of young men who not just care for each other, but they care for the community and they care for all of the kids that are inside that school?
Well, I'm a big guy in faith. A, lo- Maypearl, coming to Maypearl, I will say brought me back to the church, and I'm not scared to say that I went away from the church for a little bit just because of the areas I was living in or the the churches that were around me. I just never found a church home. But then when I got to Maypearl, I found a home in the church that I attend in this area. And, I was blessed to be baptized, a few months ago here. Um, Not many people know it, but it's because of these kids that really led me back to the church and led me back into my faith. Because these kids, they make it so important for their own self. I got blessed or honored last year, um, by a group of seniors that wanted to start an athlete Bible study, and they came to me and they said they felt like I'd be the perfect person to help start that here, just because of the way that I acted and the way that I approach things and talk about my faith personally, with kids when they ask me. So that was a huge honor. And so I run a faith-based program. Like we are gonna abide by, that. And I told the kids, like, hey, we have meet at the pole this morning. I don't stop practice for a lot of things, but we're going to stop practice for this. And so everyone decided, let's go. So we stopped practice, walked around to the front of the school, and just decided that we were going to do that. And that's okay to do. It's football's important, but there's other things that are more important in life.
That's it's humbling to hear. It's special to hear, knowing that we've got a leader of men actually leading men, to do things bigger than just collect a win, right? I think that
Hmm.
gets lost, especially as you move up the classifications. I mean, we just saw the prime example in the Waxahachie and Duncanville game this past week. The
Hmm.
coaches should have stepped in on a kid who was doing things all game, and it eventually boiled over. And I fully believe that that's because they put wins above kids.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, they're kids, right? Um, so I know that you have the Bible study, and then you also have a mentor program, right? Is that
Yes, sir.
does so when does that meet and how does that work?
So our Bible study is athlete Bible study is Thursday mornings. We start at 6:45. We have a group or a trio of youth pastors in the area, that they come in, and we do the coaches outreach athlete study, which is a 12-week, I believe, or 15-week curriculum, and they get in small groups, and so we do that every Thursday morning, and we open it up to 7th through 12th grade. You don't even have to be an athlete. It just started with athletes. So it's just a Bible study. We have kids that aren't athletes that come to it. And then Friday mornings at 7 o'clock, we do our mentors breakfast, which was started a few years ago that I wanted to continue on. And it's a group of gentlemen in the community, that just want to reach kids. And so they bring breakfast every Friday morning. They they split up into their groups. I think it's like one gentleman, three or four kids apiece, and they just talk about life. That they may ask, how are y'all feeling about the game? Is there things that are struggling with? Are there things that you need help with? Outside of football, just to give them another safe place to talk. Because nowadays these kids, they won't necessarily tell you everything. Prime example, we had a kid this past week who he's been going through some things, spiritually. And so I was able to, bring in a youth pastor to talk to him about some things he was questioning. And I felt like that was, being able to have those relationships with gentlemen in the community with our kids is important. And so, yeah, man, we try and give these kids everything possible that we can provide to them to make sure that we're not just worrying about football games, because not every high school athlete is going to be a college athlete or professional athlete, but they're all going to be men. They're all going to be hopefully fathers and husbands. So how can we teach them to be best at that through sports, through the avenues we have in sports?
Coach, that is it's I can't tell you how refreshing it is to hear a high school coach take that approach. I know when
Hmm.
we were in school, that was kind of the norm, and then it got lost for some reason, and I don't know why or when, but the profession kind of just lost its lost its way in the sense of what you just pointed out, that the sport is the avenue, right? The
Hmm.
sport isn't what's going to decide the future for 95% of these kids.
Hmm.
Not very many get to go to college and play, and even when you do, if you don't have a foundation and you you don't have a solid head, I mean, you go to college and then you get lost because then you've got these extra freedoms and extra time, and you can skip class and you can do things on your own. So to know that y'all are instilling that now in the freshmen and sophomore and juniors, and then the seniors can also feed back into it. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, that's pretty awesome, Coach. And it goes beyond the box score. It goes beyond the sidelines. So thank you for that on behalf of the community, because that is special.
Absolutely. I mean, it's you know, it's got to be the center. And if it ain't the center, then it ain't right, in my opinion. So, we are not a community, I feel like, that shies away from it. We're one of few communities that I know that pray over the intercom before the game, and we're praying, for anything, praying for safety of the players, and we're praying for the fans to act right and to realize that, we're out here playing a game that's been provided to us, and it's just a game. And no matter how important you think that game is, there's something more important to that game. And I've told the kids over and over again, like, you got to be right, you got to make the right decisions, you got to put your feet on the ground and make the right decisions. Somebody tries to give you something, just say no. No matter what it looks like, just say no. Like, that's what we have to understand is, we got to be right, but no matter what, we have we're a forgiving God that is willing to, no matter how far we go away, he'll always welcome us back home if we truly believe.
So well put, Coach. So well put. So I mean, from that, I mean, to look forward to the next game or the next week
Hmm.
doesn't really do much good, because that approach is that approach is going to bring the team together, bring the staff together, and that's going to result in more wins than any time spent watching film.
Yeah, the wins
Is
the wins will come with an established culture, in my opinion. If you can establish a culture that's based on the right things, the wins will come, and they'll come for a steady period of time. And you can look at programs that they had one really good year and then they don't. Well, what is the difference? You don't really know. But if you establish a culture, the wins will come at a steady rate. And you can look at these other programs that are really good, and you're like, I'll give a shout out to Coach Tolley at Waxahachie. I really love seeing the videos that get put out about him and about what he tells his team and how he leads his men. Like, I don't know him personally. Um, I don't know that I would even recognize him if I saw him walk in a restaurant. But really big shout out to him, because the way he prepares his men and the way he talks to his men, you can tell he's doing it for the right reasons and not just winning that football game on that Friday night. And he's been able to establish a culture that's been very successful as of late. So I really look forward to seeing those videos that get put out by that program over there.
He has a fire about him too. I mean that
Yeah.
he speaks pretty often in the community, and every time he does, anybody that hears him says that they're ready to run through a wall. And I think it shows on Friday nights.
Hmm.
But you are right. It starts with the culture in the locker room, and it's huge. I
Hmm.
mean, it is absolutely huge. So before we wrap this up with our three keys to victory, want to give a shout out to our sponsors who are also very big on faith and in the community. We got Lone Star Pizzeria, C1 Veterinary Services, Zoll Hay Farms, and Chambers Creek Bar and Grill. So, Coach, with that, what are your three keys to victory this week?
Um, Obviously, getting the ball in our playmakers' hands. I think I say that every week. Being able to stop the run because when they want to run the ball, they try and run the ball at will. Um, and just doing our job, each player doing their job, and that's something that we talk about every Sunday morning. Is how many times did your position player do their job? And if they're not doing their job, then it puts everybody else at a risk. So getting the playmakers, getting the ball in the playmakers' hands, stopping the run, and just doing our job. Each and every one of us. I have a job to do as a head coach. And so does the third string wide receiver. Everyone has their job, and they just need to do their job 120%.
Absolutely, Coach. Sounds great. Well, we look forward to seeing the Panthers travel to Troy on Friday, and best of luck. Stay healthy, and we will catch up next week during the bye week.
All righty. Well, I appreciate you, Travis. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Coach.
Woohoo! Yay!